Georgia's been in the mix for David Sanders since the very beginning of his recruitment, and the push from Kirby Smart and Stacey Searles has really been consistent from start to finish on Georgia's end. I mean, as far back as last fall, David said that really Georgia and Tennessee were the two programs that were probably recruiting him the hardest at that point in time. He's taken game visits to Georgia. He's been to junior days. He's been to offseason practices. Really, every turn that he could be at Georgia, he has been. A couple of the main priority factors for him are playing for a championship contender, playing for a program that has put out NFL draft picks at offensive tackle, and Georgia definitely checks both of those boxes. Whether or not that will be enough for Georgia to win out in this recruitment still remains to be seen. But again, from start to finish, Georgia really has been able to check a lot of the boxes for the Sanders family.
Why could Nebraska potentially make sense for David Sanders? Of the four teams that Sanders is considering as he makes his decision later in August, Nebraska's made up the most ground out of any program. They hosted Sanders as kind of a surprise official visit in May, then got him back on campus in July. And I think part of the reason that Nebraska's really kind of inserted itself into the conversation, aside from the NIL piece of it, certainly, is just the way that they've recruited David Sanders and his family. I think Matt Rule's done a fantastic job of really selling that relationship, trying to make that relationship really work for Sanders and his family. It's kind of the geographical outlier, but Nebraska has really kind of gone from the dark horse in the competition to right in the mix. So I think Rule's relationship with the family is a big reason why Nebraska could certainly make a selling point there. Nebraska runs its program under Matt Rule more like an NFL program. They just cut the ribbons on a $165 million brand new state-of-the-art practice facility. So there's a lot kind of going in the right direction, or seeming to go in the right direction in Lincoln right now. Just in terms of playing time, Nebraska going into next season will have a sixth-year left tackle and a sixth-year right tackle no longer on its roster. So the depth chart opens considerably for a player of David Sanders' talent. And finally, just the relationship with Dylan Raiola. That's a big reason why Sanders took the visit back in May. He's really worked hard at peer recruiting. And you kind of make the case that you can kind of come and be another five-star talent at a place like Nebraska and try to get that program back to where it was before.
Ohio State is the best fit for offensive lineman David Sanders for a number of reasons. First, think national championship. Sanders has the Final Four of Ohio State, Tennessee, Nebraska, and Georgia. I really don't think he's going to end up at Georgia. So of those other three, Ohio State, Tennessee, and Nebraska, there is absolutely no doubt that the school year in and year out that contends for a national championship is at Ohio State. And everybody wants to play for a national championship contender. Number two, Ryan Day's prolific offense. He has had great offenses since the day he arrived at Ohio State, and now he has Chip Kelly as his offensive coordinator, which should make Ohio State's offense even better this coming season and in the coming seasons. Number three is development. Ohio State is well known for their development of talent and getting guys to the NFL, and certainly David Sanders wants to go to the NFL. So for development purposes, you're not going to beat Ohio State. And Justin Fry, as Ohio State's offensive line coach, a couple of years ago, he had as his two starting tackles Paris Johnson, who is a high first-round NFL draft choice, and DeJuan Jones, who is a fourth-round draft choice, but showed he was ready to play in the NFL his first season, became a starter for the Cleveland Browns and played very well. So Fry has developed great offensive linemen. And then finally, Ohio State has their two starting tackles this coming season as guys that will very likely be headed to the NFL after this season. So if David Sanders picks the Buckeyes, he has a great opportunity to start right away as a true freshman at Ohio State.
I think there are a handful of reasons Tennessee is the best fit for David Sanders. Let's start with proximity. Among David Sanders finalists, Tennessee is the closest to home, only about 4 hours from Charlotte driving, so it's been easy for him and his family to make the trip to Knoxville on a pretty regular basis. That's one of the reasons Tennessee has hosted him 5 times since early April, but I think they're a close family. The idea of staying pretty close to home makes Tennessee a comfortable fit, and they like the Knoxville area on top of that. relationships, not just throughout the coaching staff, which he has good relationships with coaches at multiple staffs, but multiple members of Tennessee staff have developed deep relationships with Sanders and his family, and also their Tennessee commitments like George McIntyre, the four-star quarterback from Brentwood Academy in the Nashville area, who have been close with David Sanders throughout the recruiting process, have made him feel comfortable with Tennessee. The opportunity on Tennessee's offensive line, the Vols, like a lot of teams, can at least talk about playing him early, but they have a real opportunity for him to step in and start right away with one of their starting tackles, John Campbell, being a seventh-year player who will be gone after this season. And on top of that, Tennessee's a place that has invested as much time, energy, and just resources into his recruitment. They've made him as much of a priority as anyone. I think he feels truly important to Tennessee and can see himself being one of the faces of not only this 2025 class, but Tennessee's program over the next few years.
You've heard the pitches for the 4 finalists. Now let's dive into what I'm hearing just a few days ahead of his commitment. Starting at the end, Georgia is a school that just doesn't have a ton of optimism right now. They don't feel great. I don't like their chances. I just think he's looking for somewhere else when it comes to making a final decision. Next up, you got Nebraska. Nebraska's been a surprising charger in this recruitment. They did a great job, led by Dylan Raiola, the freshman quarterback, who's done a phenomenal job of recruiting David Sanders Jr. Obviously, Matt Rule, there's a lot of buzz about the Nebraska program, so keep an eye on the Huskers. The team that I think is in second place right now is Ohio State. I think the Buckeyes are going to finish just short in the pursuit of Sanders. They did a phenomenal job. Ryan Day, Justin Fry, the entire staff made him priority number 1 and really opened his eyes when he got to Columbus. But in the end, there can only be one. I don't have a 24/7 sports crystal ball, but if I had to put one in, it would be on the Tennessee Volunteers. He's been to Tennessee more than any other school this calendar year, and I feel like that staff, led by Josh Heupel, has done an outstanding job of making him a priority, showing him a lot of love, getting him connected with other commits in the class, and I just feel like when it comes down to making a final decision, I think Sanders is going to be a Volunteer.